Hello again. In this video, we're going to add some new gameplay elements. Namely, I'm going to create this little icicle object that will drop and fall on you if you don't move out of the way in time. And to do this, looking at this map, there's not a lot of space for me to test this out, so I'm just going to do a completely new level. So I'm going to save, I'm going to create a copy of this scene, so I'm going to save this scene as level 2. And with level 2, I'm going to replace just the map here. So I've got a few new assets I'm going to drop in. I'll put those in sprites. And I'm just going to change this map to be map 2. And you see it's like black like we want it to be, but it's not. The polygon collider is a little messed up, so if we reset this, then it will automatically redo the collider for us. So first off, I just want to get this to be where I want it to be. Can move this around so that it starts at 0, 0 again. Maybe do 50, it's kind of nice. 50 and negative 10. Maybe negative 9. Yeah, that's better. And then we need to move our targets. This map only really needs to go 2 directions, so I could just do 2 targets, but instead I think I'll just I'll vary the speed over here. So once you get to the first target, which if I hit W I can move, at a certain point, yeah, negative, oh, it should probably be the same as the map here. Targets, bring this to 0, 0. Is that like working? 0, 0 and target. Let's see, 0, maybe negative 20, 15, 15 and 9. Just like right in the center there. It's kind of where we want our camera to line up. Second target, we will put where we're about to change this guy. So 9 and 40. It's kind of maybe 42. 543. Cool. So now when we play this, it should go to the right. And I didn't set the speeds any different, so it'll just be, I think, 5, 5, and 10. Alright, yeah, okay. So that gives me a good space to sort of test out these little stalactite things. Alright, so I also have my new sprite, little stalactite here. And so this will be what my game object's going to be. I'm going to create, this is sort of like a spacey world, so maybe like a standard blue icicle might be a little weird. Maybe I'd make it like red or purple. Orange is kind of weird. Whatever color you want it. I'm gonna put that at 12 and 7. I want it to be a little bit behind the map, so 6. Okay, that's good. And the map and the stalactite are on the same layer, but I want this to be, I want the map to appear in front of it. So I want to make sure that the map has a higher number than the stalactite. So we can add our collider to it. We can just do a polygon collider again. We could probably get away with doing a box collider because we don't need to be that accurate, but since we have polygon collider, we'll just use that. And if you notice, if I hit play, it usually gives like a little bit too much space between this and my actual map. Oh, if I add, we're gonna need to add a rigid body, so do rigid body 2D. And when I do that, 1, we want the gravity to be 0 so it doesn't move on us immediately. But you can see this little space right here, right? So what's happening is that immediately at the start, both this collider and this collider are interacting with each other. We don't really want that to happen. I want this to sort of hide a little bit above the ceiling here. And so what we can do is that we can go into our project settings and we look at physics 2D. This is super handy. We can sort of determine what interacts with what based on our layer. But first we should probably create a layer for that. So I'm going to add a layer and make this a map or hazards layer. Let's do hazard. And I also want this to sort of follow through the floor, just to be simpler rather than colliding and moving around like that. I think I'd prefer it to just fall right through. So it's best if these two don't interact. So I'm going to go back into Physics 2D. I have a little hazard. So if we look at this collision matrix, we can see how things interact with other things, if they do or don't. I don't want hazards to interact with other hazards. So if like another icicle falls, I don't want that bicycle to hit the other one and then move it off course or anything like that. So I'm going to deselect this so these two hazards never interact with hazards. So we'll do that. And next thing we want to do is I'm going to create, so in order for this to make our character die like the wall does, we need to have a check. Oh, it's still, oh, I didn't tag them. So both the map and the stalactite need to be layered as hazard. And do we want to change target? Yeah, we can change the children. So that the targets never interact with each other, but they're triggers anyway. So now we can see that it doesn't really move out of the way, but we want to have it collide with the player so that it makes a game over. And to do that, we already actually have the code written out. So if we look at, I kind of want to organize these scripts better, but actually let me do that real quick. I'm going to create a folder and call it scripts. Now all my scripts are going to be in there, just so I can, should have done that before. And I saw another thing I want scared to be an animation. So scripts, and oh my gosh, I put the scripts in sprites. Not what I wanted to do. Hopefully that's all of them. So if we look at our map controller, while it's loading, we can sort of look right here. It sends a message to the game manager to fail as long as it's collided with the player. Let me bring that over. zoom in like before. Hopefully that's a bit better. So yeah, so it's going to send a message to fail, and then the game manager reloads the scene. We can just attach the same script to our stalactite. It might not be, maybe later we want to create like sort of a hazards and have inheritance. So like a hazard inherits the map controller functionality, and then we can like break down hazards even more. But for now this works. If I hit this, I lied to you, it's not working. Is my player tagged as player? Oh, it's, for some reason I changed the layer on accident, so I'm going to make sure that is not a hazard. And now it'll collide and cause a game over. So that's great. Next, we want to cause it to fall. So I can't create another collider in the same object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a child, an empty child. To stalactite, I'm going to call it fall trigger. And I'm going to create just a simple box collider. And it's going to be a trigger. And if I look in the scene here, I'm going to edit the collider so that it reaches like the entire floor and even above it, I guess. So once the player enters here, we want to trigger this thing to fall down. And the trigger will fall down with it, but for this it doesn't really matter because we're just going to trigger it once, and that's all we really need it to do. So we need to create a new script that says like on trigger enter 2D, make the object fall. And how we're going to do that is we'll call it, we can do stalactite controller as a new script, and create an add. And I hope I spelled that right. Okay. It's fine, we can reload all, and we don't need update or start, we just need void on trigger enter 2D, and on trigger enter 2D, we gotta feed in a collider, so the other collider, the one that this one is colliding with, collider to the other, and if it's tagged as the player, if other dot tag equals player, then we want to do something here. So we've triggered it. So what we're going to do is to make this fall, remember we set this at a gravity scale of 0 so that gravity isn't affecting it. To make it affect it, we're going to feed in a new gravity scale to that rigid body. So we're going to find our parent. I think we do transform dot parent, right? And we're going to get a component from the parent, and that component is going to be our rigid body 2D. And with this, we're going to set our gravity scale equal to, we could just do 1, but it might be fun to have the object fall at different speeds. So let's create a public float up here. It says new gravity scale. So let's copy and paste this. I think we can say like equals 1 to make a default 1 anytime we have a new script of this. It's not letting me save again. It's because I have multiple up, I think. So hopefully our fall trigger, yep, new gravity scale of 1. So if I look here, it's fall on now. I think it'd be nice to give the player a little bit of heads up that the stalactite is about to fall on them. It'd be nice to do like just a little bit of a shake before moving down. And we can do that in our stalactite controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for like 1 second or so, I'm going to have it shake before it falls. So I'm going to do whenever you want to mess with functions based in time, like in seconds. I usually use an IEnumerator, and we'll call that, you can just say fall, be like a fall coroutine. And anytime we use this, we need to do like a yield return new. I'm going to be using seconds, so I'm going to do wait for seconds, and we can just do 1 second to test out with. So before we want to wait 1 second before actually putting in the new gravity scale. So I can sort of cut this and paste this after the 1 second, and then we'll start the coroutine up here. We'll say, hey, why don't you do the fall coroutine? So now if I test this, did it save? Oh yeah, sometimes my shortcut works and sometimes it doesn't. It'll take a second before it actually falls. 1 second seems like a bit too much, so maybe we'll do like 0.5, like half a second. And whenever you use floats that aren't integers, you have to put an F after it, or else it'll get mad at you. Next we have to do the sort of shake. So remember we sort of already did this with, where's my assets? We did a little screen shake in, I believe Game Manager. Camera holder, yeah, so it's right here. So here's our camera shake. So we can sort of, if we copy and paste this, we can modify it to do what we want to in our stalactite controller. But that means we need to bring update back. So update, and if we need to trigger it at some point, oh, I got confused because I thought that was fail, not fall. All right, we're good. And so we need to do the position of our parent. So we can take our transform.parent, and then we'll modify the position of that. We have a crash position and a screen shake speeds from before. I'm just going to turn this into a shake speed, and we'll create a new float for that. Public float shake speed. What's our? We can do like a 100 or something like that. Make it default to be really quick. And then crash. Okay, so at the position at which where the transform is when the trigger is hit. So we can just like save this as we could do it on start and just save, because it's really not the crash position, it's the start position. So maybe we'll name it like vector3 start position. Unless it moves multiple times, then we can bring start back and just save our start position as the parent's position. So change these to, there is a way that we can change any of these into something else. So if we do Control F and we do like find and replace, I forgot how to do find and replace. Okay, so I already had something in there that's actually more informative. So if I find crash position, it's nice because it sort of highlights that for us. We want all of our crash positions to now be a start position instead. And I can say, hey, replace all of them, and it replaced 2, and it's great. All right. So this is going to be a little different. We want this to only happen at a certain time, so we can add a bool again, and we'll say triggered. The fall is triggered. Let's say like fall triggered. It's a little more informative. So if we do fall triggered, make sure that's default as false. Then we can do this, and we can call fall triggered. We want to do that before. And we want it to stop shaking too. So after half a second, we'll set it to false again, so that update doesn't trigger this part. All right. Now we can test it out and see if we messed anything up. All right, a little shake, and then it goes down. We can sort of modify the shake speed. Maybe you want to do like half of that, and okay. It's kind of nice. I don't know if I like orange. I think I'm gonna do, because the background is really orange, so maybe I will actually do like a purple, maybe like a spacey purple or blue. Let's try like something like that. Yeah, it's kind of contrasting. All right, that's fine. I like blue. So I'm gonna like copy this a bunch of times and have a bunch of them fall over. So if I do like copy paste, and then oops, no, we'll do like a duplicate, and then we'll move this one. If we move it like to 13, maybe like to 16. I think I want to introduce it once and then like bring it back in like a minute. So let's bring it back at like 30. And then I want that first target to be like in between, so we can do like this. And then our game manager, speed of 10, and a speed of 5, and then a speed of 5. I want to do a slow fall. Alright, so this one we can copy and paste. We can even like make a prefab of this just so that we can bring it back over and over. And I'll keep that. I'll duplicate. Yeah, I think that's fine. Alright, so 25. Where was that first target? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, let's make this one like 30 or something. And then we'll duplicate it again. We'll make it like 32, 33. Let's see. I kind of want to. Where is my? I want to like not. I want to look at that right now. Okay. Yeah, it's decently spaced. And then we can duplicate both of these, and then move it somewhere here. And we could probably even snap to something 36, 39, that's fine. And then we can grab grab all of these and duplicate again. So we have this long line of them. And then grab all of these and duplicate. I'm not going to be just super precise anymore. Cool. Shake, shake, and then I slowed down, and so I have to like, oh. Alright, so here's what's happening. We're triggering it several times, and we only want to trigger this once. So what I'm going to do is make sure after I've triggered this, we're going to start our coroutine, and then I want to get a component. I want to get our box collider 2D, and then I'm just gonna disable it so that we're not triggering this several times. So we're gonna say enabled is false, and now even if I hit this several times, it's gonna just do it once. Another thing is that, like, you can see, like, the eyes are going crazy every time we hit this. So one way to avoid that is in our player script. If I open up my player, no, it's the wall checker. I believe these little wall checkers. Reload them. That's fine. So I want to check if I've hit a map or not. So I'm going to tag them. So is if tag equals map, then string to bool. Oh, equals. We're checking, not setting. Now, as long as we have these tagged correctly, then that's when the eyes are going to move. So we want this to be tagged as, we can tag it as map. So one weird thing that I'm doing is I'm using both tags and layers, and I might want to organize that to be like just tags or just layers. I think I want to edit that though. I want this to be capitalized like the others. That's right. It's a little annoying, but okay. So now, did I change the children? No, that's good. We don't want these to be mapped, but we want the parents to be mapped, so that we're only really checking, so we're not going to look only when we're really close to like the icicles or the floor. Oh, I need to tag the map as a map too. Tag this as a map. Okay. And now we're got this sort of working again. Cool. Something I can do is I can create little more of these, like make the player move around a little bit more with little blockades. So I can just use the same player and a little rectangle and maybe like scale it up to 2 and 2. Just be a supersized version of. Something I kind of was interested in is just like one. It's fine. Is forcing the player to sort of trigger these and then run back so that they can like actually get around. So I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna just call this a hazard 2. And remember, we have to layer that as a hazard and tag it as a map with a collider. So this one I can just do a box collider. I'm going to create more of these. And this one is going to be gonna go a little bit to the left, and then I wonder how to get another shortcut back again. That's fine. Oops, not that one. I want this guy to be, oh man, it's just scale. If I can change, oh, okay. Is there a shortcut for that? I don't remember. I just want to sort of scale it like this. Okay. This one I want to be a little bit bigger too. Move this here. So basically I want it to be a really hard time to actually navigate through here unless you trigger it and then come back and forth. We'll see. We'll test it out. Okay, we've slowed down, triggering a bunch of these. If I don't move at all, I'm fine. But here I need to move. So like if I do something like this, whoa, okay. And then I want some like kind of like that this game is like about learning strategies and stuff, you know. I'm gonna duplicate these a bunch of times. I thought it would be fun to move these and then make this section sort of about falling at a similar speed to the stalactite. So if I make it like the new gravity scale on each of these to be something that's much slower. Instead of 1, make it like 0.3 or something. Then it'll sort of like fall really slowly with you. And it might be interesting. So I'm gonna shake speed there. Okay. Triggering these. I wonder if I can still actually. Oh, nope. Try to not do the, okay, let's do that. I think that's, and then as these are falling, they're falling really slow, but they'll catch up to you. And there's no way unless you make sure to not trigger some of these until later. Kind of like that. I think that's interesting. And then take these hazards and I'll duplicate them, and I think I'm gonna make the player move around a little bit. So this guy will have to move here, and this guy move like, how tight do I want to be at this corner? Maybe make the second one harder than the first one, something like that. And then we can add more stalactites falling. So we can do, one thing is that I want these to trigger no matter what, no matter if you're like really far down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the box colliders on these, I'm gonna like scale that up a bunch and then move the Z so that we're still triggering it no matter what. -30, almost. Go like that. Okay, whatever. Now let's see if this is playable. Tricky section. Okay. I don't want to trigger the third guys yet. till, oh boy. Oof. Okay. Oh god. Ugh. Oh. That's another thing that we should, now that we have moving objects, we could make sure that our player stops interacting once he's won. So the same way we've done, like, disable the box collider on our trigger, on our stalactite controller. Same way we've done that, we can do with our player, and we can say, hey, if you've won, make sure you're not like colliding with anything anymore. That way, if you've won, you don't really have to worry about it. Right. Let's try that again. Make sure that we. Okay. Don't trigger these guys yet. Oh my god. Ooh, it's kind of getting interesting. Oh, and oh, you see, I barely made the collider before I died. That's nice. Yeah, some of these stalactites are appearing over. Oh, okay. So yeah, these little guys, I want to make sure appear over my stalactites. So I look at their default, and they're the same. So these hazards should be like above, so like 1 or something like that. All right, little polishing touches, and that's it.